have that weight of expectation. They can win the World Cup for their team and their country, but equally, if one of them gets out, that could be
our first partnership.
50-run partnership of 65 balls. It will be the fastest partnership of this game so far. And for once, quite even as well. 20, Josh Butler 22, and with Stokes with 24, with the extras, probably contributed by that 5 wides over the top of the keeper's head, would have been one of the key scores, bringing up that 50-run partnership.
It all helps.
It certainly helps. But now we have Henry coming into bowl. We've got 1 for 29. You'd say he's the one who can probably pick up this wicket here. He's only got 2 overs after this. Can he do something? There's no slip in place. This ball's just sent out towards third man for an easy single. Butler doing this comfortably at the moment, bringing Stokes onto strike for 29.
Bobby Bobbitt's tweets, as if the situation wasn't precarious enough, I'm running out of beer.
Running out of beer, that's got to be
an issue.
Send out a send-in.
Can't be running out of beer. That's just, I'd say, poor planning.
That's terrible planning, isn't it?
You buy a case of beer, unless you're drinking a beer and over, you should be okay.
Unless you're a numpty.
And Jay Grover is taking a wee bit of medication, so my day will end.
This next delivery hasn't been dropped, so it's been hit back towards Henry. Has it hit him? Has he dropped this? Has he dropped the World Cup? I guess we'll see this on replay. But from what I can see, it was hit quite forcefully back towards him, may have ricocheted off his hands, and we could go down as a drop catch, but we'll have to look at that replay to confirm.
A bit of a leading edge? And did it carry? That's the other question.
Yeah. We'll need to see that front-on image, which we will at the start of the next over. But in the meantime, any other tweets to get in?
I was just saying, Jay Grover, I'm taking a wee bit of medication, so my day will end at least neutrally. Luckily for him.
When Jay Grover says I'm taking a wee bit of medication, I have all sorts of things going on in my head.
And Marty Q, England to win by 1 run. You heard it here first.
1 run? That would
I don't believe that's
1
possible.
wicket, is it?
That, yes, I know.
That's all it needs is 1 run for England.
That would be interesting. Unless it went to a super over, it's certainly doable, so don't count it out just yet.
It carries on to say, just in time to see us whitewash the Aussies and the Ashes.
Yeah, we'll
fighting talk.
We will park that discussion. That's the next thing, galloping over the horizon. We do have the England-Ireland Test match, which starts in a couple of weeks' time as well. But for right now, you'll forgive us, I'm sure, for concentrating on this game.
Yeah.
There seems to be a bit of a theme of predictions coming in, because Kunal's gone for England to lose by 7 runs.
7 runs.
So let's see.
I used to like you, Kunal. Used to like you.
I think we have a drinks break at the moment, so we're just waiting for that to continue. Feel free to run through the tweets.
That's up to date.
We are up to date. Yeah. Excellent.
Oops.
Oh, there's a new one. Is that a refresh there?
No.
That's good.
I hit the wrong button. Sorry.
No, look, it will certainly be interesting. I mean, I don't think there's any point in talking about the Ashes, but I'd say, as an Australian, one of the things we do want England to lose this World Cup, because I think it'll be more and more insufferable if you've won the World Cup and you're heading to an Ashes series, rather than you've lost a World Cup going into an Ashes series. So,
well, you'll forgive me, but I will. I'll take that. I'll take your annoyance.
Fair enough.
If it means we've won it, finally.
A little point raised by Nick Martin. England conceded 17 wides. If they lose by 7 runs, I will repeat this fact. Good spot, Nick.
Don't, Nick. Don't. You're better than that.
Better than that.
And Bobby Bobberts, I think the Aussie game got me overconfident. I only had enough beer to last until 2:30. Yeah.
But where are you in the world?
Exactly. It's got to be in anywhere you are. There will be.
Must be in the middle of Australia if it's 2:30.
Both the McDonald's and beer near you.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Who did that song? Is it Alan Jackson?
It's 5:30 here. Anyway.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's a great tune.
England still needing 105 to victory. I think when we get below that 100 mark, it will be quite interesting. It's on a knife edge. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it still is.
You can say what you like about the character of this game. It might have been a bit stodgy. Both teams have found it hard to bat, but it's been an intriguing contest, and it's going to go down to the wire. Much as I'm shredding my arse thinking about it, so in terms of a spectacle of a game, you have to say it's been a good one.
Yeah, it certainly has, and it's very unlike many World Cup finals, because you often never go down to the last over.
Yeah, a couple of those that Australia have won far too easily.
That is true.
With scant regard for the world game.
The game of cricket certainly could use a game like this. Roy ended up making 17, but I'd say you'd still go Henry's still the pick of the bowler so far. 1 for 30 off his 8 overs.
He's been extraordinary, and Bolt's been really unlucky as well. That first ball of the game, this innings, could easily have taken the wicket. At times he was swinging it almost too much.
I'd say Lockie's though, he's only bowled the 4 overs, and I'd bring him back on. Like, he's the sort of guy who can pick up at 2 or 3 quick wickets, and particularly when you need 105 or ever run a ball needed. Even if you dot balls here and there, we'll start building pressure. We've got Santner for now to continue. Comes in with slow bobblers that just pushed out towards the fielder. They will run through for a quick single. The throw came in quite errantly. No overthrows there.
Geez, that was a sharp single, wasn't it? I mean, if he'd hit from backward square leg, though, it would have been very, very close.
Yeah, certainly would be.
You know the old cliche about straight after a drinks break as well?
That is true. I don't know why that's the case.
Well, we're back after tea on the third day of this first test match between India and England at Trent Bridge. And I'd like to say the match is beautifully poised. It's not that beautifully poised. India are on top, but not massively on top. And the big news here from Gorilla Towers is we appear to have lost our pictures just as we're coming back after tea.
Does that mean you haven't got anything yourself?
Yeah, that means that the weather's fucking shitty.
Yeah, I know. Well,
here.
it's raining here, but I've got a picture. If you want me to do ball by ball until it comes back.
Yes, you do that.
But I had, hadn't I? Jack's with us as well. It's Mohammed Shami coming in round the wicket to Burns, and he finds an outside edge, a thick one, and goes down to the ground just in front of Gully. I think a little moment of worry for Burns, who's made 1 in that 6-over spell before tea from 17 deliveries. Sibley actually hit a boundary, didn't he? He's gone to 5. But as they were saying just before the end of the break, you don't want to moan too much from an England perspective, but India seem to be getting better of the conditions slightly, because it cleared up nicely in the afternoon. It's quite sunny. It's the cloud has rolled back in again. So Shami once more beats him, this time outside the off stump, as he thinks he moves into line, but finds himself inside it, and through it goes to the keeper. There is no run. Jack, are you on tweets?
I am. They're just coming up now.
Okay, no worries. Just checking who it was. I couldn't remember. Had to switch rotors around quite a bit today with problems with the weather, certainly in that first hour this morning. But I wonder whether we're going to get through to Are we going on till 7 o'clock potentially tonight because of the amount of time we've lost? Or is it less than that? Shami in bowls with the angle. Burns tucks it up to mid-on, and there is no run. You got your picture back?
Got the pictures back, yeah.
Okay,
got,
on you go.
2 lots of pictures, one about 20 seconds behind the other. So,
how's that
for
work?
replays anyway. It's the internet, you know what it's like. They bounce things off loads of countries and different satellites.
Yeah.
11 for no wicket. England still trailing by 84 after a pretty poor attempt at bowling at the Indian tail earlier. They tried to overturn 250 years of cricketing orthodoxy by not bowling at the stumps, as Shami round the wicket to the left-handed Burns, who tucks this into the leg side. It's fielded at square leg, no run.
Well, you know what? You know, everyone's talking that that Robinson's bowled well. He's picked up 5 wickets, and he has bowled pretty well. Had quite a burden on his shoulders because Broad and Curran were not really ripping up trees at all. But I think there was a stat yesterday that showed that something like 98% of his balls to that point would not have hit the stumps.
Yeah, that's true. But it is different bowling at opening batsmen and top order batsmen than tail enders.
True.
You want to bowl many more balls that are hitting the stumps at the tail enders. This ball would have hit the stumps from Mohammed Shami, but Burns defends it well. I think he's experienced enough a bowler to be able to change his line and length when necessary, but they just decided bizarrely and madly to start bowling short at people with test averages well into single figures.
It was odd, wasn't it? Because I thought, he got rid of Shami in his first over with the second new ball, and that was a foolish delivery that went off the pads and bowled him.
Yep.
So you do wonder, don't you?
That probably wasn't hitting the stumps, but it bowled him. Funny game cricket.
Yeah.
As Shami bowled, and this is defended by Burns. Play can go till 7:30 this evening.
Okay.
But I can't.
Nope.
So I know it's been very tough on you, Hendo, today. I know you don't like doing any sort of work, but you've had to rejig the schedules about 5 times over the last day and a half, and I'd like to offer credit where it's due. So well done for the Bear for doing all the technology. And Hendo.
Yeah, I'm sure you would, Fred. Should we go for some tweets?
Yeah, we can do it. It's been a little bit slow off the mark after tea. Warren says, can you stop dragging out the World Cup final? The suspense is killing me.
No spoilers.
And that's it. I have 8 minutes to go.
Mohamed Siraj will be bowling, and he's going to be jingled up. Well, his first ball's gone for 4, but not entirely where Sibley would have wanted to, because it was a genuine outside edge and went past the third slip and down to the untenanted third man boundary for 4. He was sort of playing across the second slip, actually. He was playing across it, and there's a few words from Siraj to Sibley. He's actually got quite close to him as well. Sibley's about 6 inches taller than him, so probably doesn't want to start a Barney.
He's got a bit to say for himself, hasn't he, Siraj? We had him and it was more Anderson who was barging shoulders with him towards the end of that India innings.
Like a bargee at this time of day, as Siraj bowls outside the off stump, and Sibley leaves, which is something he's good at. 80 runs now the deficit, 15 for no wicket England, and I'm not going to start talking about where England want to get to in terms of a first wicket partnership or by the end of the day or any of that thing. They've just got to bat and bat and bat.
Yeah.
Do you think that Sibley knows how boring he is?
I don't think he cares. It's got him a gig, a very well-paid gig, as an international sportsman. He might be very entertaining in his real life. He might be the first one on the karaoke desk, belting out "Total Eclipse of the Heart." But when it comes to batting, he's sedate, prosaic, you might even say, as Siraj is up to the wicket and bowls, and Sibley, guess what, leaves.
Well, I've got a friend who keeps contacting me and saying things like, Sibley puts pressure on the other batsmen, this is the problem, this is why they're all getting out. I don't know whether he's exactly saying that. Well, he spoke about Hamid, but if you look at Hamid, although he did really well in those 3 tests in 2016, I think his scoring rate is lower than Sibley's.
Way
I think
lower
in mid-30s as opposed to early 40s.
Well, tests don't get drawn nowadays. So, as Siraj bowls, and this is turned into the leg side, but as Gary made the point in the first innings, Sibley can't, or doesn't on this occasion, manage to miss the fielder, and it's a good diving stop at short mid-wicket. Because games aren't drawn, other than badly rain-affected games, it's very rare that batting too slowly is a major problem.
Yeah.
So that's basically the extent of what I'm going to say. I could pad it out a bit longer with some fancy words, but I won't.
Oh, please.
Onomatopoeia. As Siraj comes in and bowls outside the off stump, and Sibley leaves. Yeah, if England needed 170 off 35 overs to win the game on the last afternoon, he may not be your first choice. But most of the time, 98% of the time, it doesn't really matter how long an opening batsman takes to score his runs, and if he makes his runs, good for him.
Yeah, I think that's
the only problem is he doesn't necessarily make the runs.
The problem is not the
strong enough as he'd need to.
As Siraj bowls, and that beats him. It kept slightly low, I think, as it got a second bounce, unless he got an under edge. Siraj again has got plenty to say for himself, but that's the end of the over. It's 15 for no wicket. Yeah, but then the problem is that he's not making runs, not that he's making runs too slowly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just from the position, the only criticism I can come up with of him scoring so slowly is that probably you are going to get out batting in England if you face 80 balls, 100 balls, and if you only scored 20 runs off them, 20 runs is not very many runs. But I think to say him scoring slowly affects other players is incorrect.
You disagree?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I was just putting that as an argument. I was playing devil's advocate. But
Tell your friend, Endo, your friend,
we don't agree with you.
that he's talking nonsense. Mohammed Shami starts a new over to Rory Burns, who gets on top of this and drops it down towards the gully region where it's fielded. No run.
I mean, there's a difference. I mean, he's an ugly batsman as well as a slow batsman, and that's, I think, why people don't really want to watch him. And I think there's a lot of that when they're looking at problems in this England side. They would still almost rather have a dasher who's going to get you 30 off 30 balls and play a couple of nice cover drives rather than Dom Sibley.
It's an opinion, but it's a wrong opinion, because when James Vince goes there and scores 30 runs, having looked absolutely $1 million, people are saying, why are they picking this arsehole who always nicks off for 28?
Well, I mean, that's we reserve our right to change our minds, even within the same sentence.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you can do, but don't expect not to be pulled up for it. Mohammed Shami. Round the wicket, a little bit wider of the crease bowls, well wide of the off stump, and Burns leaves into Pants gloves. Pants gloves. That's a bit of an odd construction. 15 still for no wicket. Assuming, and I haven't checked the weather forecast for the next couple of days, assuming we were to. Oh, I said I wasn't going to do predictions and stuff, but assuming this was going to go the distance and we were going to get all the play that's available in the next couple of days, how far in front would England feel comfortable of defending? 180 plus?
Yeah, we feel
Not
comfortable,
but that's a minimum, probably is 160. As this is driven by Burns, square on the offside, on the bounce to point, no run.
I think if you were to ask England now what sort of lead you want, and you gave them 180, the old adage of snatching it out of your hands would be taken, wouldn't it?
Are they biting your hand off?
I think so, absolutely.
There's so much biting of hands that goes on. It's like a Hannibal Lecter 5.
I mean, how many runs would England actually have to score to be 180 ahead? They would have to score, 282 in the second innings?
Yes. No one said it was easy, but that's what happens when you concede a lead of 95 in the first innings. You are under the cosh, and even if you get to 70 for no wickets, you're still technically under the cosh. This is on leg stump and beautifully timed by Burns through mid-wicket. It was a full ball, and it was on his leg stump, but he didn't miss out and picks up 4 runs.
It's Nissan She. It's Nissan She.
Yep, that's a good shot. If he keeps bowling there, I think Burns will be delighted.
Yeah, he plays that shot really well. Most top order batsmen do, to be honest. Anything sort of full on their leg stump, and it's just nice to see it when an England batsman actually times it as an opening pair. I mean, Burns has not had a bad season at all. I mean, he's got 100 against New Zealand, he's got 50s plenty for Surrey.
As Shami bowls again, and it's another full ball on leg stump, but this time it's played behind square, down to long leg for a single. 20 for none. Burns now has 6. He has scored. He's either got absolutely nothing for Surrey, or he's got a decent score. He hasn't sort of fiddled around and got out for 20 odd. So yes, he's probably in a bit of form. You say, I mean, Sibley scored lots of runs at first class level. Obviously, that's a major rung lower than Test level, but those are 4-day games, and presumably his team has won some when he scored some runs. So I think the strike rate angle is a little bit overplayed. It's for the T20 generation. This Shami bowls, this time to the right-handed Sibley for over the wicket, and it's defended at the leg side. No run. The end of the 9th over, 20 for no wicket. And let's have some tweets.
There are no tweets.
There are
over on YouTube. We have a couple of messages. Khan has sent us a love heart.
Nice. So nice.
And Ferber says England will win.
Really?
On YouTube. Hit like. Leave us a comment. Say hello.
Well, a bloke on YouTube has said it, so it pretty much must be true.
Well, yeah. I mean, why? What reason do you have to doubt Ferber? Hendo is what I would challenge you with.
I have no reason to doubt it. No reason at all. No reason at all.
Is he a friend?
You sounded incredulous.
Did I? I'm surely not. England will win.
We have to mask our incredulity at some of the things that our correspondents come up with, but in that case, it was quite reasonable.
Bear has won his bet, by the way.
Hey!
What was his bet?
Oh, he says he hasn't won his bet.
No, he hasn't. Oh dear.
Two more
no,
runs.
you've
Two more runs.
2 more runs.
You've booked it now. We know whose fault
Well, I
it is.
thought it was 19.5. It's his fault that he wasn't able to get the better way.
Well, his name is Hope, but that might turn to despair, as Siraj is going to be rolling round the wicket to the left-hander, a ball which is decent because it must have held its line, which is the technical term for moving away from the left-handed batsman, but it was a little bit wide and Burns didn't play at it.
Yeah, I think, talking of phrases that you hear in cricket commentary a lot, the one that annoys me that has come into the lexicon in the last 3 or 4 years, maybe, I don't know, even a bit longer, ball having a little bit of shape on it.
Oh, it's got a bit of shape.
I
What
don't
shape
like a
is
ball
that?
with a bit of, exactly, I don't like a ball with shape on it. I think the
Not
shape
bad
of the ball has
rotating
is
the strike, which
kind
is
of round.
Rotating the strike usually means score runs, as this is this is a straight ball. It's on middle and leg, and Burns is a little bit uncomfortable in defending that, and it's gone to just in front of square leg, no run. People say you've got to rotate the strike. They don't actually mean rotate the strike, because there's no advantage to the bloke at the other end being on strike. They just mean score runs, don't they?
Basically. Yeah, well, I mean, that might get something going on Twitter. I'm just trying to thinking of ways to try and perk up our...
we're trying to perk up our audience, are we? Should I talk some politics?
Well, you could try that, I suppose.
No, I know my place, and that is firmly in the right. As the next ball from Siraj is defended back down the wicket by Burns.
Do you mean firmly in the right or firmly to
The
the
right wing, I think
Firmly-
he means.
Yeah, I think so.
Firmly correct,
Firmly
obviously.
fattest.
There's no point arguing with me because you're just going to be wrong. As we see a
Said
nice aerial
Mussolini.
view of Trent Bridge.
A couple of really good sandwich shops out the back of Trent Bridge, actually, I have to say. I've been to a couple
Outside
of
the
times.
back.
Well, outside the back of that stand that we're looking at.
I like the way the Trent Bridge Inn calls itself the world famous Trent Bridge Inn. Nobody else calls it that. It's just they call it to themselves. It's a bit like KL Rahul giving himself a nickname. As Siraj bowls, and the Bear is still waiting to win a bet. It's still 20 for no wicket because it's the dot ball.
I don't know this story about KL Rahul giving himself a nickname. What is it?
One of our tweeters, again, I add the caveat, it was one of our tweeters, so it may or may not be true. Apparently he called himself King Legend.
Oh,
That's what the KL
Yeah.
stands for.
That's true. Dinesh Karthik has confirmed that.
Oh, right, yes, I did see
And he's
something
the
like
most
that going through
trustworthy
Twitter
man in
yesterday.
cricket, Dinesh Karthik.
Did you see him on his scooter outside Trent going around Nottingham yesterday? It was
a bit
about the funny,
dangerous.
it was almost as funny as when Ian... What's his name?
Botham?
Austin.
Oh, I'll come back to me soon.
Siraj bowls, and this is turned off his leg fine by Burns, down to long leg for a single. 21 for no wicket, still 1 run needed for the Bear to...
No, he got it wrong. It B in O-level maths meant that he never managed to do the 1 to 2 jump that
right. Ordinal numbers, cardinal numbers, it's all very complicated. We believe the Bears won a bet, but that's good news for him. Good news for England because they're 21 for no wicket. Last ball of the
50p.
10th over.
The man I'm trying to think of used to be the Australian wicketkeeper. I'm having a really bad day. I've had my
Ian
mind on
Smith, the New Zealand wicketkeeper.
Ian Healy. That was it. Ian Healy falling off a Segway. That was quite amusing. Do you remember that? Went out of control.
No, but I'd pay good money to see that. He's a very punchable face. As Siraj bowls the last ball of the 10th over, and it is left through to Pant. The end of that over. It's 21 for no wicket. Do we now have some tweets?
We do have we have a flurry of tweets.
Hey!
Neil Frankland, get more like Sibley and Hamid in. That'll put an end to this new audience nonsense. Harriet Atkinson. So can safely say 69 won't be winning the GPL then. Never believe a weather forecast. Ravi Nair. I really dislike it when Notfred makes cricketing sense, as he does about Sibley and scoring rates, because then I can't hate him in peace and have to agree with him. Instead, it's frustrating. Warren, is Hendo offering to fluff members of GC radio listeners?
I'm not sure what he means by that.
Never.
I think we'll move on.
No,
We'll move on.
No, I think we should deep dive on fluffing.
What is fluffing?
for Hendo's? Twitter, people of Twitter, that'll get people messaging in.
What is fluffing?
Hendo, never ask a question that you don't know the answer to. That's the barrister's first rule. Shami starts a new over, and this is defended into the leg side by Burns. No run. Yes, barristers are told when you're asked a question, you better be damn sure what the answer's going to be, because otherwise, you're going to, find yourself in trouble. Oh, well, I'm glad that Ravi Nair is listening and enjoying my comments as usual. Always a pleasure to hear from you, Ravi. Did that sound sincere? I was trying very hard.
Nessus has also tweeted him, but the sum total of his tweet is at Gorilla Cricket. So
he's drunk again. Chamois bowls, and this is play and a miss by Burns. Did he play inside the line of that one? Which means it probably moved away, which is pretty handy when you're bowling round the wicket as a right-hander to a left-handed batsman. But it was a full-blooded drive.
Yeah,
and it beat the outside edge, and it wasn't very far from it.
I think it just wobbled in and then, as
wobbled
you say,
away.
held it, wobble in and wobble away.
And it wobbled away.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Yes, was that a jingle? That's a jingle.
Yes.
Isn't it? Yeah. I knew it from somewhere.
So Shami, who is a master craftsman, especially with a new ball in his hand, bowls again, and this is Fuller. Burns defends. He doesn't get a big stride forward. He just sort of props forward halfway from the crease, defends, and the camera seems obsessed with a man dressed as Jack Russell. I have to say, he's a pretty good impression of Jack Russell. He's got not just the hat, gloves, and moustache of Jack Russell, but his features look pretty good. Maybe it is Jack Russell.
What happens if you give him a paintbrush? That's the actual, that's the deciding.
But this guy is far too gregarious to be Jack Russell. He should be sitting in a corner, ignoring everyone. Except Annie, who I believe is on next. As Shami bowls, again Fuller, a little bit of wobble into the left-hander, but well defended by Burns. Is it a problem that England are going at less than 2 and over? I don't think so.
No, it's not a problem at all. Really, it really isn't a problem. It's all about keeping wickets intact for as long as possible. It's crease occupation. Obviously, you've got to get runs, but you can spread them out over a couple of days if you want to.
Well, absolutely. I mean, England are behind, and they have to try. And at the very first milestone is to prevent India from winning this game, and only then can they think about winning it themselves. As Shami bowls, and this is angled down to third man. It's between second and third slip. Is there a third man? And there isn't. It's going to be 4 runs to Rory Burns. Oh, nice to hear from Brittany. Hope she's doing all right. Yeah, he played that genuinely angled down rather than catching the edge. So that's become quite a usual shot for opening batsmen.
A lucrative one, really.
Well, in this era of no third man, or third men.
That era's been quite long-lasting now.
Yeah.
Deep thirds.
If we get rid of third man, we have to get rid of maiden as well. As Shami bowls, and this starts wide of the off stump, comes in slightly, but started too wide. The end of the 11th over, 25 for no wicket, I'm sure. Twitter is alight.
We're going to go over to YouTube, actually. Rohit Singh says the ball has shape like Crawley is a reliable batsman. Christy George, India will win this test match for 4 out of 5. Wicket and Kohli got 50 in this match. Good. Dara Azizi, the wobbles win. I don't really know what's going on there. I think they're all talking to themselves. Neil Franklin says, I agree with everything Not Fred says. I just draw diametrically opposite conclusions from it. Leah, Not Fred will be among the first to be put up against the Rahul Dravid when the revolution comes.
But the good news is there will never be a revolution because all you lunatic lefties are too busy fighting with each other.
Yeah, there's something to say to that, yeah.
New over, Siraj. The Gobby Siraj bowls, and Sibley defends to point. No run. Now, we're having a look at Shami's release point. I did have a great statistic about release points earlier, but Jack cut it off in its prime.
Oh, what was it? Can you not remember it?
And I asked, I said that Ollie Robinson is third in the world at something, Carl Jamieson's second, and Jason Holder's first. What do you think it is? And before I got the question out, he'd answered it. It was the highest release points, which is actually pretty useful for a bowler. And you're wondering whether, if he did bowl Fuller, he would get more of lift off a Fuller length if he.
Who, Carl Jameson?
No, Ollie Robinson.
Oh, Ollie Robinson. Yeah.
Is it not that you pitch it at the same place and batters, because they're making the decisions without really thinking. They're all reacting by instinct. They think they have to defend their stumps when they don't, which means you're more likely to be out caught.
Well, they may have seen that graphic that Robinson is. No, I can see umbrellas going up. I can see people wandering, and we're about to see the umpires flicking the bails off. Oh dear! I feel so sorry for the people who are coming on in 1 minute to take over the commentary. Oh,
only me. Well,
you.
don't worry. I'm taking over the Tony Bishop role of always coming on to commentary when it's raining.
He does some of his best work. Well, rain has stopped play, but I believe it doesn't look dark. There may be sunshine and showers around, so this may be a very temporary setback. Coley is not leaving the field, rather like Joe Root did earlier when he managed to get the umpires to change their mind, but this time it doesn't seem to be working because they are heading off, and I assume the covers will be coming on. This may be a good point to have a turnaround, I would have thought. So,
okay, we might as well. We might as well. Who's coming in to join me?
Hendo, Messi and Annie. Of the 5'10"
the
brigade.
The 3 tenors again.
So if you could just chat for half an hour, and then I'm coming back in half an hour to
do more
cricket.
commentary. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I did the rotors so that we could get more of you, Fred. Absolutely.
Great for the listeners. See you soon.
People love it. Maybe that's why we've had no tweets, because nobody listens when Fred's on. I think that's part of it, isn't it?
Oh no, that's not true.
Well, it has been said. We have seen an exodus at times when Fred has come into the room, as it were. The umbrellas are up. It looks quite heavy at the moment. It may just be looking worse because it's been quite a blustery day.
It looks like a crowd at Wimbledon, doesn't it?
Oh, it does indeed. Did anyone see that video of the cameraman at the Olympics following the trampoline?
No.
Well, you know how in tennis, if you get side on, you're looking across to a crowd and you just see the heads turning right and the heads turning left.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So the cameraman was just going up and down constantly. He was leaning it up and leaning it down. Diane Patterson says, I listen when Fred's on. She is Fred's only friend. For heaven's sake, she says. Ravi Nair, I might as well do some tweets because I'm doing bugger all else. If anyone wants to know the role of a fluffer, just consider having to keep the other Tony Bishop in prime form for his next scene or shot. Oh, that's a bit worrying, isn't it? And the fact that Raoul calls himself King Legend has Michael Vaughan apoplectic, says Messi Jez. You're all here, Messi Jez. You might as well say it yourself. You didn't think of it first. I forgot you were here. You never know. He's either tweeting or he's commentating. I wondered while we endure another rain break. It's almost as if I'm attached to Nottingham because it seems to be raining where I am in London almost exactly at the same time as it is in Nottingham. But I thought we might talk about Michael Vaughan to a certain extent, although not too much about him in particular, because I don't know if anyone saw that story. I think it would have gone in this morning's rag known as the Telegraph, in which he was saying, Jofra Archer's career could be over, Test career could be over. I mean, that's a little bit premature, isn't it?
Jofra said, can you untag me from this tweet?
Oh, did he?
And then Vaughan said no.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh my God. He really has become the most objectionable creature in cricket, hasn't he, Michael Vaughan?
As well as KP?
Well, yeah, no, but I mean, he is more objectionable than KP. KP's just annoying, but Michael Vaughan is truly objectionable.
Well, Michael Vaughan says what he says to create outrage quite deliberately.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's factual or not. He just wants to get the headlines. KP just makes a hell of a lot of noise. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know
objectionable.
I don't even know that Michael Vaughan would have come up with that idea by himself. I almost suspect that a news editor at the Telegraph said, a sports news editor at the Telegraph said something along the lines of, "Oh, do you think that could be the end of his career?" Well, it might be, but probably not. But because you do a thing that that goes on that line, and then so Michael Vaughan, being unafraid to put his name to any old shite, decides to go along with it. But I mean, that really left a sour taste reading that. He just,
yes, he should be playing white ball. Apparently, that's all that Jofra should be playing is white ball.
Is that what Michael Vaughan says as well?
Well, yeah, basically that was what he was kind of saying. Yeah.
Well, I don't read the Telegraph. One, because it is.
Well, no, I didn't read the Telegraph. I only read the tweet.
Yeah, I read the tweet as well, and of course, because the Telegraph is now behind a back door anyway, I wouldn't go there. If you paid. Well, I might go there if you paid. Generally speaking,
How much?
It'd have to be quite a bit.
Yeah.
It would have to be quite a bit, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Now,
I've got to say that Joffre's injury will be very disappointing for a lot of Australians as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of love for him here. He played in the BBL 3 years ago now, I suppose, with Tasmania. And his first season in the BBL was superb. The second one wasn't so much so. But he has developed so much as a cricketer in those 3 years.
You bloody ruined him, didn't you?
You bloody Aussies! You bloody Aussies!
He comes out there, he's really good, and then the next season he's shit.
But let's face it. Actually, those of us that love cricket rather than necessarily wanting our team to win. Of course, we want our team to win. Generally speaking, we want to see the best cricket. We want to see the best cricketers, and I totally understand that. I've been in Australia when. I've felt the disappointment from Australians around me that England haven't got their strongest team out there, or England are at a low ebb. They want a really good competition. They obviously want to win, but they want it to be hard.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the other thing is that, for all the parochialism that goes on, everybody likes to watch really good cricket. And if the best cricketers can't play, then you don't get to see the best cricket. It's as simple as that.
This is true. I suppose it does open up, opportunities for the likes. Well, Ollie Robinson was probably going to go anyway. Saqib Mahmood, who really impresses me. I know he's done well in those ODIs that he came into. I just love his action. I just think I'm not sure that he's going to take an absolute bundle of wickets, but he's a joy to watch.
He's great to watch.
Point of view, he's just great to watch, isn't he?
I think he should definitely come to Australia. I think he'll learn so much being here.
Well, I think he has to. I think he has to now.
I think we should take Darren Stevens just to piss Jack off.
I reckon Darren Stevens should be there as a sort of father of the team.
I agree.
I'd like to see Darren given a chance. He'd probably nibble out a few Indian batsmen on the wicket like this, wouldn't he, as well?
Bloody awesome he is, yeah.
People joke about him, because of his age and because, he's a bit of a dibbly-dobbler, but he's a fantastic cricketer. Think about that innings he's had. He's had more than a couple of extraordinary innings from difficult positions, hasn't he? There was one earlier this season, was there, Annie? You'll remember it better than I do, but he got a big 100 and shared in a massive last wicket stand, I think it was, which... in which his partner only got a couple of runs, if that. Jack Leach-like.
He is rather awesome, and he does do his does do his bit for county cricket, whatever Jack says. But you see, I'm here. I can say all this now because Jack's.
I didn't. Well, I must admit, I missed this earlier. Is Jack another Ravi Nair who hates county cricket?
No. Oh God, this is what the 100 looks like, isn't it?
I
was looking at the screen.
Yeah, we've actually got some 100 on the screen.
That's really cruel.
It's the women's match between
This is like punishment for me.
It's the Trent Rockets against the Welsh Fire, I believe.
Indeed, it is. Yes.
Yeah. I've got into it a bit more. I've got into the women's game a little bit more as well. But as I said, I'm not sure that it would grip me if I wasn't sort of doing something else at the same time. But Annie, sorry, I'll let you come in. But I was just going to say, that's been true for me of T20. It's no different in that respect for T20.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge T20 fan, so I'm not the best person to judge something like this hula hoop stuff. So, but when we were watching the Kia Super League at Taunton, we had really, really good crowds, and they were all families and girls and kids, I think this is great for the women's game because it's getting a much, much bigger screen, it's getting much further reach, but it could have happened anyway, and this is the bugbear really. The Kia Super League was just building real momentum, had a really good following.
Do you think it's just easier to start something new
when
it comes to marketing rather than trying to create something that's already there and people
if you market the shit out of it?
Well, no, absolutely. But I wonder that whether they could have, marketed the T20 in quite the same way.
No, probably not. No, I agree. It probably couldn't have been, but there are other ways of doing things. So, you know.
I think there is a fundamental problem, and it's not around 100 versus 120 balls. It's around having 16 teams in a short form cricket competition. 18 teams, sorry. I think the reality is, you look at the IPL, you look at the BBL, CPL, and so on. 8 teams seems to be the optimum. And the scheduling for the 100 is actually really good. They're just having 8 games each and then 2 finals. And that, to me, is a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, but when
the
you
fact
talk
that they
about
destroy the county system process is crazy.
When you're talking about the optimum amount is you're talking about like Australia, aren't you? And New Zealand have 6, don't they? But they have really concentrated areas of population, don't they?
That's true. Yes. Yeah.
And we don't. We just don't. All right, we do have cities, but we have a lot of cities, and we have a lot of areas, and this is how we're set up.
I understand that. I mean, my thought was that maybe you should have a 9-team competition with pairs of counties in each. So you got Sussex and Kent as one team. It'd be an interesting exercise, but at least there's an identification then, and you're not destroying the county structure as well.
Yeah.
I think any of those variations that you could make, I think they're problematic. They're always going to have opponents. Now, if you look at football, there have been occasional attempts to merge teams, and obviously it's got fans backs up very strongly, and although I don't really support a county, I suppose nominally it's Surrey. I do understand that there are a lot of people who have a similar attachment to their county that I have to a football team.
Oh, absolutely. I've had people in tears calling me, and people do not understand quite how devastating it is for so many people.
But Annie, supposing I'm trying to think, what's your closest county? I'm guessing. Beyond Somerset, Gloucestershire, is that the other nearest one that you would have? I mean, if you were to take the message as
Bristol
template, you would say Gloucestershire and Somerset. Now, how would that make you feel if it was a Somerset and Gloucestershire joint team, and you were playing half of your games at Taunton and half of your games at Bristol? How would you feel about that?
Do you mean in terms of county? County games.
No, I'm talking about
a knockout.
In a knockout, not a knockout, but in a league system like we've got with the 100.
Personally, I like following my team, my Somerset team. I've enjoyed watching them grow from young lads and developing, and that's who my allegiance is with. I don't know. I like watching Devon, for example, as well. Right. I like the counties, and I like watching them, become players, and I have that allegiance to that team. I don't know how I'd feel if it was a mixture, and I don't know how they do that. How do you?
I think it would be enormously problematical, and I think that's probably why they. Yeah. If they did think of that as a proposition, that they probably went away from it.
I know they'd like to get more down in the southwest, obviously, but they have to include the Welsh team, don't they? For example.
Well, being the English and Welsh cricket board, which is strange when you had do you still have a Wales minor county? I don't know whether we do or not. I know it was a minor county at one point. I'm not that up on minor counties cricket at the moment. Have to say, there's so much more cricket going on that actually minor counties become even more minor.
Massive amount of cricket. It's a huge amount of cricket.
I would say one thing about the 100 that I like is the fact that we've got, and this may not remain this way, is that we have quite small squads. So it is quite this is really more from a commentary point of view or an understanding point of view, that you don't have to get your head around 25 players, which you have to do with each team, or 24 players in the IPL, because you never know who's going to be playing in an IPL team. So you kind of have to research all these different players and know a little bit about each of them, and some of them are sort of relatively minor or guys coming out of first class cricket, or not even first class cricket in India in some cases, and getting your head around and finding details about some of these.
I think that's an interesting perspective, and I'm not sure it's actually.
Well, do you not think? I mean, if you support it, and I could expand this argument to football teams. When I was growing up, your football team had 11 players and one substitute, and there might have been 3 or 4 other players who might occasionally, get into the team or whatever, who weren't in the team. Now with almost endless substitutions. Squads of 25, 30. I mean, I often look at football stories and I see a guy who's being transferred from Chelsea to somewhere else, and I never even knew he was at Chelsea.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing about getting a handle on so many players is quite difficult. If you have a core that are going to be there, it's much more easy to identify.
And they're less likely to be carrying the drinks. Yes, I can see that. Going back to the women's game, I had I do think in lots of ways it is very good for women, and they're getting paid, for God's sake. They're actually getting paid for playing. How wonderful is that? But I have had a couple of conversations recently with some female county players who are up in arms about it all, because they've gone from playing county cricket to having nothing. If you're not an elite player,
right,
if you're not one of these that have been picked, you've gone from having 8 games of county cricket a season to having nothing, and they've been given T20 to play. They've been given four games of T20 in the whole fucking season. I mean, it does. It's that whole thing of shrinking the game to grow the game. I don't quite understand that. So you've gone from all these women that suddenly don't have any county cricket at all whatsoever.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's a crazy system. I'm hoping that will change, and I'm hoping things will develop from seeing this wider, getting women's cricket out there a little bit more. I'm hoping that.
So where and what cricket are the women beneath this elite level getting any cricket? Are they playing club cricket?
No, they're not getting any.
No club cricket?
No, they get club cricket. That's what I'm saying. They've lost their county cricket that they've been playing at the moment. As far as these two players were saying, so they've lost the county cricket that they were playing, but they can play club cricket. But the shift in skill level is so big, that it's not at all demanding, and they won't get, if they're late developers, they won't get picked up because there's no pathway that they can follow.
No, that makes perfect sense. Not perfect sense. It makes sense what you're saying, but it is by far from perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert on the women's game at all, so I'm sure there'll be people that will say, "Oh no, this is but these were 2 county players that from 2 different counties. One of them from Worcestershire, which is a proper county, and one from Devon. So there's this isn't all great for the women's game in lots of, in some ways. Anyway, it's good for the proper elite players, and this is where I do differ from people. I'm not actually. I want to watch my team at Somerset play. I've enjoyed watching the Royal London Cup because I'm watching some players develop and have chances that they wouldn't always get. I'm not necessarily up for watching the best players. I think you've touched on a really good point there, that it's about and perhaps it's about coming from a different generation, that we have seen sport as something you identify with and feel for a place more than anything. I mean, we haven't necessarily come from a place where we love individual players, whoever they play for. We've come from a situation where some of us have been involved in the county setup at lower levels and whatever, and you can see a bit of a pathway, so you have some sort of element of attachment to that. And whether
you don't have to have that. Obviously, you maybe just start going and you take a pride in what your team does and what it does to develop players, and it's a real pleasure to see someone who, you know, starts off with limited ability, get better and better. I mean, that's certainly one of the things that I take from watching football at Wimbledon is, you know, for example, this year we've got an incredibly young side, and so many have come through, you know, the junior sides from sort of under 9 upwards, and you know, going back to the old Wimbledon, we used to love that about the team, developing its own players. That was one of its strengths, and now we've got to a point where we're doing that again, and that's incredibly rewarding. But
it is incredibly rewarding, and also it's a way of the game getting bigger and more people playing it. And this is the problem with the girls in Devon. There's some really, really, really talented girls that play cricket for Devon, and Cornwall. Let me not forget Cornwall, because they've got even further to go. If they actually wanted to, you know, to actually play proper and to get, you know, probably noticed, they have to go too far to play all the time.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's true. I mean, a lot of players have come through. You were talking about Devon earlier. A lot of the Somerset players have come through Devon.
Oh yeah, loads. Yeah.
So, you know,
do the county structures include support for a women's team in each county?
The women's team, I believe it's 32 counties that play
Right.
county cricket. So there's a lot of counties that play it. Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking in Australia, I mean, we're lucky to have only 6 states, and the ACT is part of the Women's National Cricket Leagues as well, the Australian Capital Territory. But they're all very much a part of the state structure in each state. So all the facilities at the WACA, for example, are available for the women and the men, and there's a very strong development ethos in terms of that.
Yeah,
because it's a development streak towards the national team.
Oh, and that's really sensible, yeah. But this is another thing that's good about the 100 is the women are actually playing on decent pitches. You know, I mean, not that the outgrounds that they play on before weren't good, but they're being given a chance to play on the proper pitches, and that must be amazing for them.
I think it makes a massive difference. I mean, you know, even at the highest standard of club cricket, pitches are nothing like as good as you get in professional wickets. It's as much as anything, it's about being able to afford a decent groundsman or a, you know, an expanded staff to actually work on these wickets. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I should just say that we've been told there will be a restart. We should be going back from the women's game between the Trent Rockets and the Welsh Fire. Not that we're actually actively commentating on it. We should be going back to Trent Bridge, weather permitting, at 5:45 for the restart there, which has just about sort of covered my commentary stint.
And mine, and Messi.
Yeah, and Messi. So we wibbled. I think all I've done today is wibble.
Have we really been going for? Oh, we've only been going 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's still a few minutes to go, but I do seem to
have you got any tweets, Messi?
I probably have. I'm sorry. There are only a couple. Brian Barish says, I would love to listen and watch more of the 100. But unless it's geo-blocked, I'm presuming in Dublin, I don't understand the point of wanting to bring in new audiences if you prevent them from watching and listening. Sometimes logic is a 4-letter word. And Frank says the 100 is identical in terms of marketing and razzmatazz to 2020 when it first started. I
think it's not far away. I mean, I remember going to one of the first T20 games at the Oval, Surrey Middlesex, and you know, there was a lot of talk about how is this going to go, and it was a massive crowd at the Oval for that. You know,
and it was counties. It wasn't.
And it was a local derby, and it was a sunny night. Absolutely. And you know, I covered quite a few games down at the Rose Bowl as well around that time, and you know, they had sort of fair roundabouts going on and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, there was a fair bit of razzmatazz. I think what is different is how on message all the commentators have had to be. I don't think we had. I think we were more critical about T20. A more critical approach was taken by journalists in general, en masse. I'm not talking about individual journalists, because some have been sort of very opposed to the 100 to some extent. yeah, I think there are definite similarities, but I do feel like that the journalists and commentators have been infiltrated by Pravda.
It didn't. It also. Well, I think I did do a little tweet. Is that the Demon Headmaster? I don't know if any of you saw that.
No. What was that?
Where all the kids had to say, "This is a really good school." It's,
oh yes. Oh God. Was that
that
the English song that we had to have? The UK song or whatever it was.
Okay, something like that. And I do feel a bit like that with it all. This is a really good tournament, and saying all the keywords and exciting and da 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 da. But
I don't. I mean, you'll know Dan because he's on your podcast, isn't he, Dan Whiting? And
yes.
I saw him tweeting the other night about. Of course, he's been on Gorilla, the middle stump, if you know him as that. And he was saying the other night a quote from Sam Billings saying, the purpose of Kent Cricket is to produce cricketers for England and franchise cricketers. And I thought, what professional cricketer would use the word franchise cricketers if he'd not been got at by marketing bods? Yeah. I mean, it's just not a natural thing to say, is it? You might say we're producing good cricketers for the future and for the Test team and even for Kent itself, but would you really say producing it for franchise? We're looking for franchise cricketers. I mean, that's it sent a sort of chill through my spine when I read that. To be honest.
Yes.
Pretty horrible, I would say, and that's the problem. We have enough sort of slanted media these days. The last thing we need is for it to infiltrate cricket.
It does really feel like that. And the thing with the T20 was that it was county based. We weren't trying to, we were trying to help all the counties. And in theory, the 100 is supposed to be here for the counties, but there is no way in a million years that the county teams that don't have the 100, that aren't hosting the 100, are going to benefit in any way nearly as much as the others.
No, I suppose that's true. I mean, they are going to benefit because they're all getting money from the ECB, having signed up to it, are they not?
Yeah, but they're losing money, massive amounts of money on, the World London Cup, on the memberships, on T20 being put out of the school holidays. There are other things that they'll be losing money from as well.
Oh, certainly, absolutely. I mean, yes, sort of food stands and all that kind of stuff.
So yes, it may well help, and I think some of the richer clubs will get richer. And it was probably the intention all the way.
Although that said, one of the richest clubs of all was kind of against it, wasn't it? Sorry, Richard Gould there and whatever. I have more, updated news and slightly worse news because from at the top of my screen, England 25 for naught, trail by 70, where it said resumption at 5:45. It's now saying rain stopped play again. So rain has stopped play before it actually resumed, so that's quite clever of it. There you go. So I don't know. I'm guessing. Actually, I was just thinking, moving on to another subject, whether if the bear is there. Is the bear there? The bear there?
Of course I'm here. Of course I'm here.
Yeah, bear.
Hello, bear.
Did we have any GPL entries today?
Yeah, we did have some GPL entries.
How many do we have?
We had
4.
Yeah, there weren't many because of the stop-starting nature of it, and we weren't actually on air.
Were they all Messi Jez?
No.
I know.
3 of them were Hombre Nuevo.
Right, okay.
And the other one was Mad Woman. Mad Woman. That's
Harriet, isn't it?
She went 69.
So, she did.
Yeah.
I think she's lost. So how many runs have we actually had today?
Fair few. 180 odd. I mean, what did they went in on 90 odd and they got to 2 something or other and we scored 20. So around about
I think it was 100. Was it 125 to 4 when they started this morning?
This is where your O-level maths comes.
Sort it out.
And I have to actually look at the scorecard.
I know. Well, me too. I'm going to scroll it up as well.
Day 1.
Start at the beginning.
Day 2 you wanted.
Day 2. End of day 2. Or we could. End of day. They were 125 overnight.
Yep.
And they ended up 278.
So that's 153.
153 indeed.
25 England, 178. I can do it for you.
178. At the moment,
anyone near that?
No. we two people. Well, Ombre Nuevo's second pick is out. 69 is out. 207 and 237 are the only other scores today.
Okay.
Which need another 30 odd runs, wouldn't it? So.
Yeah. My feeling is that if we're not playing at 6 o'clock, we can't continue till 7:30.
I think it might be knocked back to 6:30 because that's when the official end of play. I don't know. You know these rules; they always fucking change.
Yeah.
I'm never quite sure what goes on at the end of the day. It's like a dark art. Yeah, they'll either call it at 6 or they'll call it at 6:30. One or the other, I'd imagine.
Well, I'd prefer
off
it
with
was 6
7,
o'clock.
apparently.
Cut off at 7, so they have to be out on the field by 7? Or that's the cut off the end of play, so when do they have to be out on the field? Because there's obviously a time to clear up and all that shit. It gets calculated into it when they call the stumps as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess some of it depends on how hard it is actually raining at Trent Bridge.
Well, if they flick back from whoever this is doing their DJ set in the middle of the break, what the fuck? I mean, look at this.
Well, that's Darren Sammy. That is Darren Sammy and one or two other people at the 100. Yeah, I know.
Well,
but
Cricket Info posted at 5:34 that it's raining again. So.
Well, yeah, no, we kind of knew that. I'm just wondering whether they were going to say
how hard it is.
Well, not so much that, not just how hard it is, but at what point they can call it off. And I think on a normal day, if they're not playing by 6, they have to call it off. I thought that was the regulation, but I may be wrong. As you say, they seem to change it. On a regular basis, so we're never quite in the loop on that.
I was listening quite intently.
Oh, hang on! I've got an update. I've got
restart.
An update upon an update. The rain must have stopped, and the restart is now put back till 6:10.
Until it starts
So we are able to continue tonight. So what I think I will do is it's time for the next Wibbling bunch to come on. The next Wibbling bunch is Jack, Fred, and the Bear. So come along and wibble.
Yeah.
You only got.
Now we can get the complete opposite side of the coin because we've got Jack on.
Exactly. Well, there you go. We are nothing if not a broad church, allowing all sorts of opinions.
And then we'll have a vote at the end, based on both arguments. Right?
Maybe we should have a poll. Who knows?
I'm
Annie.
just looking at Annie.
Well, you guys are on for. Well, you might as well stay on till 10 past, and then I was due to come back with Messi and Annie at 6 o'clock.
Yay!
So we will be back.
6.
So it'll be Jack, Fred, and the Bear. Let's see if they all arrived. Yes, they're all there. Wibble away until we start again, and then you can go off because I've been doing too much wibbling. Now I want to do a bit of commentary.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
I vote for highlights of the World Cup finals.
Of course you do. So. This is true, isn't it? I mean, were you listening to Annie's side of the argument there?
Yeah, more or less. I went out and got a beverage for about 10
fair
minutes.
enough. That's a good ploy. I'm about to go and get one myself.
I caught the gist. What?
Well, I mean,
what about it?
So, I mean, what this has happened? I mean, do you think it is worthwhile? Do you think it will? I mean, my feeling is it's just going to morph into a franchise T20 competition in a couple of years, and it's kind of like a way of getting there that's really circuitous and obvious.
I mean, like, if you're talking about the format specifically, why are we playing a 100-ball format? Well, we're doing that because it has to fit into a time slot on the BBC. Now, in 3 years' time, 2 years' time, 1 year's time, say it's proved itself as a concept and people want to watch the 100, or they want to watch a franchise tournament in England. Will the BBC continue to be interested in showing it? Who knows? Maybe it'll go to ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5. If that happens, I think it would revert to a T20 because then there's a commercial angle, and this is why the IPL goes on forever. Then there's a commercial angle, and you want the product to last longer than 2.5 hours. So
especially if you're getting
an incentive for it to be a T20 because you get extra 40 balls. You can throw a couple of strategic timeouts in, and it's 4 hours long.
Yeah.
So that's what I think might happen. I mean, if they want to. If the BBC maintain an interest in it and the ECB think that is the best way to promote the tournament and to, in quotes, grow the game, because I think in grow the game, really that means make more money from cricket, then they will keep it as a 100-ball format.
Yeah, I don't even think that was. I mean, it was mooted. I think, wasn't it originally? It was sold to BBC as a T20 competition, and they weren't that fussed about the time. So I don't even think that's a valid argument for it either. I just think that they needed to I mean, my feelings are they just needed to somehow cut the counties out.
Nah, I don't think that's. I think
in a sense that whole thing they need a small format competition, and they can't run it with 18 teams. And there's just a lack of communication there between the counties and the thing. There's got to be a resolution to that problem that would make it easier.
If they'd wanted that, then there's already the brand recognition of T20. It'd be much easier to sell in India. I mean, in India at the moment, it's on like a weird pay-per match platform. I think related to fantasy cricket. It's not on mainstream Indian. It's not on a mainstream Indian broadcaster hasn't picked it up. I think they probably would have done if it were T20 cricket. So I think there is very definitely a cause and effect in terms of the BBC and what they want from it. And then beyond that, I mean, like I think the point about cutting the counties out, there is some truth to that in terms of the ECB does want a domestic tournament that is a revenue generator, basically. And at the moment, I don't think the Blast really does that for them. So or if it does, they're not getting a very big slice of that pie. I think most of the money probably goes. Or my understanding is it goes direct to counties. So in terms of gate receipts or whatever.
Yeah.
So they do want to. There is a huge incentive for them to have created this franchise thing that they own, and they own all the branding, and they own all of the franchises.
Yes, of course there is. Yeah,
but I don't think that's really related to the format. I think that's just, them wanting to make some money from by having a franchise league in the same way that they do in Australia and in India.
Yeah, but the BBL, isn't it? The BBL doesn't make much money. It was bloody.
I think it does now. I think the first couple of years it was they showed all the games for free every night and built a following. And my understanding, and maybe messages can correct me now, or because as an Australian in Australia, I think a fair number of the matches are on paywalled TV channels, so they're behind Sky or whatever, or the Australian version is, and they are making money from the Big Bash in Australia now.
Okay. See because what I find annoying about this, I mean, I'm not really that fussed about T20s, as you know, anyway. Or I mean, I watch it, but I just find it real fluff. I can never remember what's happened from one game to the next. And it's interesting to watch, but then I forget what the result was exactly 10 minutes later,
Well, to be honest, Bear, that's sort of the point, I think.
I think it is.
It's supposed to be very digestible. It's not really, if we're being honest. None of the three of us are supposed to be die-hard Oval Invincible fans or necessarily even really care which coloured team wins it. But if you're a kid, then
your favourite
snack.
I want my Skips to win, man.
Your snack or your favourite player or whatever, then I think it's very definitely it's very definitely not targeted at us. I'll be honest, I've watched maybe a third of the men's matches, maybe half the women's matches. The women's matches are on a little bit more of a friendly time in the day for going out to do other stuff afterwards.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it. I think the women's cricket's been great. I think the men's tournament isn't as good as I think people thought it might be. I don't think the quality's been exceptional so far. There's been a few dropouts, and obviously England playing Test cricket at the same time has had a little bit of an effect. But I think it's been reasonably entertaining. Been to a couple of games as well, and the thing I would say is that the format and the way it is presented at the moment is easier to understand for people who don't like cricket or don't follow cricket already. And that might get some pushback from you two, but my anecdotal experience of trying to explain cricket to people the way we traditionally think about it, and the 100, where it's literally a countdown timer of balls and a number of runs next to it, it has been easier to explain the 100 and the purpose of or the objective of the player at any one point in time.
Fair enough. You've been very quiet there, Fred. I'm sure you have some thoughts on these things.
I don't give a shit, actually. I haven't watched any of it. I'm not particularly interested. But then again, I don't watch T20 either. And I don't really watch 50 overs either. So I don't think I have anything particular to add to this conversation. But keep going. I mean, sure, it's entertaining for people who are listening. Well, maybe. I don't know. I'm sure, but
But then that's the nature of being a cricket fan, isn't it? You don't have to like all of it.
No,
you can like
exactly.
the bit that you like. You can be. Lots of people, and Fred, I would guess you're one of them, consider Test cricket to be the purest form of the game, and to some extent, when you add the efficiency dynamic of having to score X number of runs in X amount of time, you are perverting the purity of cricket. And
cricket is as a sport has to have the possibility of a draw. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, I've discussed this before. It's a different sport because in cricket, as it's been played for however many 100 years, you have to score more runs than the opposition and you have to get them out. Whereas in all limited overs cricket, you just have to score more runs than the opposition. So it has different objectives. So it is a different sport. But that's been the same since 1963 when the Gillette Cup was invented, and it's been going for a while. I'm not saying I've never watched limited overs cricket. Sure, I've watched it. I watch it less now than I ever did. As a kid, you watch stuff because it's there, because it's on, or because you went to games. But it doesn't particularly interest me, so I feel under no obligation to watch it. If somebody's paying me to watch it, then I do it on sufferance, as the bear will know.
I mean, I must say, I find T20.
Oh, he's been paid. What's going on here?
Yeah.
In other ventures, in other, we're all free agents. Let's put it that way. But I don't watch it for entertainment purposes, and I find it a bit odd that people are saying, the 100 is terrible. It's a terrible idea for a competition. What's wrong with T20? Well, it's just as shit as T20. Let's be honest. I mean, it's basically the same.
It's the same game. I mean,
it's a T20 game that's lost 5 overs because of some weather. Basically, that's what it is. How they're trying to pretend it's a new sport, it's ridiculous.
It has different rules. I mean, some of the rules are I quite like the rule at the end where if you overtime. The fielders get.
Well, they had those rules in T20 as well. They just never enforced them to the extent that you get 4-hour T20 games in the IPL, which are some of the most tedious thing that's ever been in the history.
Games in the IPL.
On occasion, I have been drafted in to commentate when Guerrilla Cricket has been short for IPL games, and it is absolute tedium. It really is.
It can be. You get the old exciting game, but I mean, I went through the entire season, I think, of the last full IPL, the one that wasn't interrupted, the one before. I think I was in every Tuesday and Wednesday, and every game I came in, it was a slaughter one way or the other, and it was basically over sort of 3 overs into the second innings.
Yeah, but you can get that with Test cricket as well. I mean,
you can do.
I mean, there's always a chance that the weaker team
suddenly has a comeback.
I don't know
or at least can prevent the other team from winning.
Because you get to bat twice, and because the conditions are prone to changing drastically over 5 days, there's an element of truth within the game that you can get a more severe ebb or flow. But in terms of like 2 teams going up against each other, you're far more likely to get an unpredictable result in a T20 than you are in a Test match. It's got merit.
Which means it's more of a lottery. It's another way of saying it's more of a lottery.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but then...
a 5-over game would be more of a lottery than a 10-over game, than a 20-over game.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. No, that's absolutely... There's absolutely no contest there. And that's the absolute... That's sort of the reason for it being 20 overs, is to introduce that element of lottery.
Yeah,
or to create these artificially close finishes.
Yeah.
And to a lot of people is quite entertaining.
Yeah, it is quite entertaining in one way, but it's just quite cynical in the other, you see. I mean, that's
artificial.
And what it is. I mean, what's the
IPL? You're artificially contriving closeness.
It's like you say, it is a slightly different... I mean, I wouldn't go so far as saying it's a completely different sport, but introducing the element of efficiency in terms of having to score runs quickly with or introducing balls as a resource as well as wickets adds a layer of intrigue and interest that that it's interesting. I mean,
what do you say?
Don't need a rule of 3 there.
By the way, we're watching a cricketer by the name of Nat Siva. I know an interesting fact about her, which is that her mother is the UK's ambassador to Japan. I didn't know how to pronounce her name, but I know that about her. So That's quite interesting. There probably haven't been many cricketers in history whose parents have been ambassadors. Certainly not their mothers, anyway.
Yeah, going back into the gentleman days, I'm sure.
Well, not their mothers. I think she's one of the few
mothers,
female ambassadors that exist. When you say the balls is a new element of, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that.
So in a T20, for instance, the game is as much about how you use the 120 deliveries you have as it is about not being out. If not more, about how you use the 100. So strike rate is king, effectively, instead of batting average. Now, if you're in a test match, it's our conversation about Dom Sibley earlier. Who gives a shit about, he could be scoring at 10 runs every 100 balls. If he's there for 300, well, I mean, that might be a bit extreme, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Whereas,
just a little extreme.
In a T20, 20 off 10 balls, if you're able to do that consistently, you're probably a very good player. Yeah,
well, obviously there are different skills, which is why players who are good at T20 are completely useless in two innings cricket, and vice versa. I think Tom Sibley's not going to be snapped up by any franchise cricket.
And Jason Roy should have never got anywhere near a fucking test side.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty good example, and he is, you might say he's one of the finest limited overs batsmen in the world over the last 5 years. Yeah, he might be in the top 5, but yet, you put him in a test match, even against Ireland at Lords,
he looks out
of his depth. It's a different sport. It really is. You've got a bat and you've got a ball, but it's a very, very different game. I mean, it was what I was saying earlier. It was on the first day of this game about having to go out of a 100 competition or a T20 competition to play a test match. Yes, you had a bat in your hand and the bowler has a ball in the hand, but there's no connection between the two. Your objectives are entirely different. You're looking to do different things, and to ask players to
I have left sympathy
with their muscle memory to try and hit balls over extra cover.
I do to a degree. I have a little bit of sympathy with that, but then I reckon if you're at the top of your game and you're a top batsman in the world, I mean, this is the thing, the best ones can flip between formats, and maybe they're not the best.
Very, very difficult, man.
I think it is quite difficult, but I don't think it's as difficult as you make out. I mean, if they're seeing the ball and hitting the ball, then it's just a decision about whether to leave the ball.
I think it's quite different in England. So I think
possibly.
if you're an Australian, I mean, David Warner doesn't have too much trouble going between Test cricket in Australia.
Well, he tries to hit full balls over extra cover in Test cricket. So.
But then you put David Warner in England, and he looks like Jason Roy. So I think I've got sympathy for both sides of this argument, but I do think in England it is more of a different sport than it is in some other
I
climes.
like it like that. I like Duke's balls, and I like fucking bowlers having a bloody chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's certainly more entertaining to watch games when wickets are falling than when teams are batting all day for 320 for one. Somehow wickets are more entertaining because of their rarity factor, because of their scarcity factor. In the same way as goals in football are more interesting than baskets in basketball, because they don't happen very often. But the same is true of boundaries in Test cricket or in county cricket. At sixes are a momentous event in a Test match. In a T20, if you don't get one of them over, people are asking for their money back on the cake. So I think it's a different sport. We can beg to differ on that, but it is what it is. I think the skills are certainly different, but my point about the objectives, I think, is more significant in that you're trying to do different things. You've got a different objectives to achieve in a limited overs game than you have in a two innings game, in a red ball game. Even we used to play time games on a Sunday. Which are one innings, where you have to score more runs than the opposition, and you have to bowl them out as well, unless they've declared, and therefore forfeited their wickets. You've got to. That's what cricket is.
6:10 restart is destroyed. It's raining again.
I think we've reached our wibble limit.
I think we have reached our wibble limit.
Hosing down.
In fact, I couldn't, if asked. Actually remember anything I've said in this particular wibble.
It was quite an interesting wibble.
Yeah.
Oh, look, Bangladesh beat Australia again.
Is that a whitewash? Is that a series whitewash?
Mitch Marsh was Australia's top scorer for the 6th time in 8 games. I'm going to have a rubbish.
Yeah, they're very understrength, Australia. So
Yeah.
although Bangladesh were also missing some of their better players as well, but it's not easy to go to Bangladesh. I mean, England have struggled in some regards there a number of times.
Well, that's weird though. Well, here's a prime example of it. This is a T20 gone wrong, Jack. Bangladesh got to 127 for 9, but Australia 117 for 4. Lost by
I bet there was a wicket right at the end as well. There's normally some sort of nonsense like that when basically Australia were chasing. I take it here.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's really bad resource use of wickets to balls to whatever. If you're chasing that sort of score, you shouldn't be 4 down. No, they didn't lose a wicket at the end. In fact, in the last over, they scored a few 4s and a big 6.
That's even more embarrassing. Then.
Exactly, they lost it in the middle somewhere.
Well, they're not going to go back there in a hurry. They don't like going at the best of times.
No, well, they had to go there. I mean, they copped out of it quite a few times of playing Bangladesh.
Yeah, but nowadays with the qualifying events, they don't have a choice.
I think that's right. I thought it was a bit disgraceful what Australia have done to Bangladesh over the years. We're not much better, it has to be said.
Well, that's not true. I think England do try and go to a lot of places.
We have played in Bangladesh a couple of times. In fact, we were there a couple of years ago, weren't we? We had
supposed to be there in October, but it's been pushed back to the next year, I think.
Yeah. The last
September,
2 years,
so that England can play in the IPL.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but also, I mean, what's gone on in the last 18 months is not in any shape or form normal situation. So
yeah, that's true.
You've got to give some allowance for what's going on. And in fact, we're quite lucky to have had as much cricket as we had, and also non-cricket, white ball stuff. I'm going to put that in every opportunity now. But Australia have pulled out of 2 or 3 Bangladesh tours.
Yeah.
And I think they've actually pulled out of tours of Bangladesh going to Australia as well. We're going to play 1 test in Darwin or something, and Australia said something like, well, we can't have anyone to cover it for TV. And therefore we have to call it off, which was a bit odd. It's a bit like the cart and the horse scenario. The test matches are not there for TV's purposes; it's the other way around. Anyway, that's what's happened, and it's been a problem for a while. And if Bangladesh beat them, maybe Australia will be more shamed into playing them in the future, but they probably won't.
Yeah, well, Australian like winning.
Put on some highlights, Bear.
Yeah.
Put us out of our misery.
Okay.
Yeah. This game's over for the day.
I think it is.
Based on everything I'm hearing.
When it pretty
We'll
much,
see.
isn't it?
Where is this game going on that we're watching? This 100 game.
Wales.
Wales.
Cardiff.
Cardiff.
What?
Yeah.
Telling me in Wales it's sunny and in England it's raining.
Yeah. Well, it must be coming. I don't know. I think it's very patchy, isn't it? This rain. It's sort of quite harsh bits of rain followed by some bright sunshine. It's that kind of weather.
Oh well. Anyway, farewell, chaps, and anyone who may still be listening in the unlikely event.
Well, next time. If it does get called off, I'll come back and tell everyone if there is anyone listening, and then I'll turn everything off. All right.
See you tomorrow.
See you later.
Bye.
People just sort of have too much to drink and go, I'll do it, but he ran in there.
I'm going to say that would have been out.
I agree. If
that throw would have been a yard out.
Yeah, that would have been gone. It was a poor judge of single. The Stokes nest ball just cut away, and they'll run through for a single, a more comfortable single this time around. No risk of run out over here.
Isn't it amazing in cricket and sport generally and life generally how when the pressure is really on you can make some stupid decisions? That single that we saw, he would have been out by a yard. You'd never do that in the normal course of events.
Yeah.
Why can't you do the things that you do in practice in the most pressure cauldron situation?
Stanton's next ball just pushed out towards long on, long off for a single.
Chris Paul, against Australia, everything went weirdly well. At least this is a proper game.
It certainly is.
I mean, you do want to win the World Cup, right? Like, win a classic would be amazing there. You can talk about the moments of the game rather than a one-sided victory. As Santner comes into bowl, this is just clipped out towards a sort of backward square leg for no run. Dot ball for Santner. He's none for 10 off his 2.4 overs. I'd say this would be his last over. He hasn't haven't seen too much coming from this, and you bring back the seamers after this over. We'll see what the Kiwis do. As Santner runs into bowl, he just comes in and is just pushed out, and they'll find a single comfortably out in the deep for 1 run. These two put on 60 runs or so. It's been a solid partnership.
Evil Scooter says, okay, at this drinks break, with Butler and Stokes in and scoring freely, I have England 80-20 ahead minimum.
Wow.
80-20.
That's extraordinary.
Would you take those odds, Grubby?
No, because that would be odds of 1 to 3, which is far less than you would get in the real world.
Pushes his wrist out, Butler, straight to the fielder. Mid wicket for no run. None for 11 off 3 for Santner. England 141 for 4. 101 needed from 90 balls.
And if you want to see the latest odds, go to betway.com/GC Radio. Sign up, get exclusive odds and offers. And, I would make this an even. It's a coin toss. It's like, 5 to 6 the pair, I'd say. So, which way you think it's going to go, put your money where your mouth is.
And on the gambling theme, listening anxiously in Tokyo. If England bottle this and cost me 150 quid from the bookies, I won't be best pleased.
Who's that?
Ig.
150 quid. I mean, the ICC prize money for winning the final is about 4 million, so I think the players will be a bit more annoyed losing out on the rights to an extra 4 million.
Yeah, but they're not going to be sending Ig any money, are they? Let's face it.
As Henry comes into the ball, it's just pushed out towards the wicket for no run.
Brian 001 says, oh yes, England will be insufferable leading up to the Ashes if they win this World Cup.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, Brian. Brian, you are one of our top senders in this World Cup. You sent us some beer the other week, which we were hugely grateful for. We've had Anna side sending us pizza today. We've had Arthur and all sorts of people sending us loads of stuff.
Next we'll just cut out for a single.
Brian 001 carries on. I was living in England in 2003 when Wilkerson drop-kicked England into winning the World Rugby Cup. For months later, every pom I saw would do their Wilkinson impression. Okay, Brian, I didn't know you were an Australian. That's okay, we're still friends. You must understand it was quite big. We're still basking in it as well.
You do have to hold on to history when you don't win that much, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
As Henry runs into the ball, over the wicket, he comes in. This ball stays a lot lower and actually just goes on the inside of Butler's edge for no run. 2 bounces off to the keeper.
It sort of begs the question, though, as an Aussie, do you prefer England crowing about winning the World Cup or the All Blacks?
I'll tell you what, I mean, I'll stick with, given the fact I'm supporting the Kiwis right now, I'll stick with the All Blacks, although rugby's a slightly different sport. But I will go with the All Blacks for today at least. As Henry comes into ball. Sports a full delivery. There's an appeal for LBW. Not out is the call. Looked a bit leg sideish live. Let's see what Williamson and co do. They're coming together. Williamson, arms open. He's got a question mark. They've got a review available. He's asking Henry the question. Review. They've gone for it.
That was out. That was definitely out. Was that definitely
100% not out.
No.
I tend to agree with you. At worst, they'll get is an umpire's call clipping leg stump. I think the importance of this partnership, though, and possibly sow some seeds of doubt in Stokes, it could be useful here. But let's have a look at the snowball.
But Pranab, I don't understand this. When teams, they sort of know that it's not out and they can't get it overturned. When it's been given out, not out on the field.
Why do it?
And you go, well, let's just...
It's
clearly going down stumps for Christ's sake, and it's angling down.
It's clearly going down leg. So it's definitely missed the bat. I guess we'll have a look at Hawkeye. They're just going to confirm to Snicko that it's missed the bat.
I'm now going to look like the biggest chump in the world if it's handing into leg stump. But why do teams do this? It's like, we'll just take a risk on it. And now the rule is different. Now you keep your review if it's...
but it's not even
this is going to be missing. And I think if they lose their review, they have. So they've lost their review, and it's going to be crucial in the last... So 10-12 overs when a decision doesn't go their way, but that was comfortably going down into a 4th stump down the leg side. Durham's, with some smiles there. He's got this decision right. He's got it spot on.
Well done.
Good for him. Yeah. Well, that's right. I think we all called it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was right. It was like I agree.
Nerves everywhere, including the decision-making reviews.
Henry comes in. This next ball is just clipped away. And they should come back for a second. Yes, they are. No, they're not. They're not. They come back. It's a good decision in the end. There's a half appeal for a direct hit, which won't be referred at all. It was clearly in, but that was a good decision by Butler and Stokes. Turned for a second, went halfway down the pitch and decided ball was coming in, not to risk it. End up coming back. No harm done in the end.
Jay Grover commenting, I'm perfectly capable of making stupid decisions under no pressure at all. Thank you very much.
Examine your life, Jay.
But no, that's a comfortably end. Good direct hit though in the end.
It was direct, wasn't it? Just skimmed the stumps and its way through.
It's just an interesting one. You're right. For once, 99 runs needed now, under 100, down to double figures. England probably prefer 10 runs rather than 99 to be needed, but nonetheless, they've done a good job so far with this partnership. At one stage, really struggling, but now the momentum's definitely shifted. The win-whiz predictors moved to 65-70% to England, so solid effort there. Right now, as Henry comes in, just defended off the back foot, cut away from
We're
short
down
cover
to
for no run.
under 100 runs needed.
That's
Big
right.
moment.
The sun's coming out. The sun has just peeked its way through the clouds here in Sydenham. It's also trying to come out at Lords, and England will be hoping that the sun shines down on a victory for them.
So it will be very, very nicely put. Poultry in motion. It's just a very eloquent way of.
I'm just trying to get over my own nerves here, Pralad, basically.
How you feeling
This
now?
doesn't happen every day.
Swing it both ways, saying, could that shit review lose New Zealand the World Cup?
Well, the reviews have been pretty poor. Ross Taylor was not out. They got to wasted a review in the first innings. That could have been the difference between 20-30 runs with the bats. And you've got this review that was wasted as well off a poor decision. It could come back to haunt them.
It could. You'd like to think a game of cricket can be settled, on other criteria than reviews. Hopefully, it's how both teams are battered and bowled and who's come out on top, rather than a marginal review.
Yeah,
but there we
cool.
go.
I'm with Muttley here as well. Come on, England, we can do this.
As Lockie Ferguson comes in, we'll get his jingle after this next ball and says, cut away hard past the fielder for 4.
There's not one boy for me, I must have 2 or 3, I need 4.
Lockie comes to the ball. It's next delivery. That's edge uppishly. In between about 3 different fielders. So over the top of point. Between straight to the deep points. That is safe from Stokes there. Just a single in the end.
A big shout out to Bear and a lovely picture of him with the great Sachin Tendulkar.
He's with Tendulkar now.
He's with Tendulkar now.
Right,
He's out there. I'll tell you what. Show it to the Facebook Live cameras.
That's the first time that Bear's actually smiled in one of these pictures. He's had pictures with Clive Lloyd, Colin Croft, Curtly Ambrose, Steve Waters he had. Anyway, he's with the demigod that is Sachin, and at last the Bear smiles.
Lockie comes into ball. Sports a short delivery that just swiveled away out towards fine leg for a single.
So what is it now? 93 required of 81.
I mean, look, I'd say it's immensely doable, and Ferguson just is struggling at the moment. They're easily reading the bowlers. All it takes, though, is just that 1 or 2 wickets, and suddenly New Zealand are back in it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, England at 4 down, it still makes it very much in the balance this game. 2 down, you'd think England are very strong favourites, but these two well equipped.
Stokes balls a fuller delivery that's just driven out towards Santner at cover for no run. I mean, but if you think back to sort of some of England's finals, the Champions Trophy against India comes to mind. Probably in a position where they shouldn't have lost to, but ended up losing a few quick wickets. So in the back of the
and